Computer. Hello, my name is Alun. My pronouns are he, him, and tonight I'm facilitating the second of a two-shot of Alien Dark, or a slight variation on Alien Dark, using some tech from my own other game, Against the Dark Conspiracy, to make it a slightly more sophisticated system. I hope. We are playing in the Alien universe, as you will notice. And I think that probably what I'll do is we'll make a swift start in a moment, by asking each of the players just to describe what we see of them as we pick up in the aftermath of events last time against the xenomorph conspiracy. Yeah. Um, but I will just say that this game, like all my online games, it was organized as part of the Open Hearth gaming community's online calendar. Don't know about Open Hearth? Search Open Hearth. Come play with us from around the world. Um, and we are therefore playing with that community's code of practice, which I think is a pretty tight one. We're also playing with a set of layered safety tools. We have lines and veils and the X card in play, and we're using Stars and Wishes as a debrief at the end. We're also playing with an open door, so if stuff goes on, people have to walk away. We hope they come back, but if they don't, that's fine. So that's what we're doing. Let me begin then. I will go right to left on the character keeper once I've described the setup. I think that this finale episode, opens with the crew of the USCSS Lake gathered together in the cryo chamber as together you lay to rest your dead crewmate, Yasmin Stahl, the engineering tech. Last time we ended with a chest burster bursting out of her chest, following an encounter out among the ore and mineral refinery on Fiorina 161, known to some as Fury. For those watching, we are placing this game a couple of years after the events of Alien 3, which you might remember took place in a rundown correctional facility. And that correctional facility is this place, and they are here to survey it. But they are 8 hours, one shift into their visit to Fiorina 161, on what is likely to take 3 days. So it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen. But yes, you are laying Yasmin to rest. Let me come first to Patsy Bailey. Patsy, what do we see of your reaction to this?
I'm curious. Would they have actually called Patsy in, or would they have kind of forgotten that she was outside and like we're fixing the thrusters under the
No,
stress?
I think that when this happens, um, you are called together, because I
All
think
hands on deck.
that
Gotcha.
Captain Mason gets everyone inside and locks all the doors, because this is weird shit, and he certainly doesn't want Patsy out there on her own.
No, if he doesn't, Thorn does, because that's what an EXO does. It's like,
Yeah,
nope,
exactly.
all hands on deck.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, and this is technically the person who worked for you principally, Patsy. So what do we see of your reaction to this? Because you can see the wound. She's 10 minutes ago she was walking and talking.
I'm looking down at her. I'm not even really looking up, but I have my hat in my hand and I am wringing it out like a dish rag from stress and worry and concern and grief. I'm not
I think
crying, but I'm a little too shocked to cry right now, I think.
well, I think that is an accurate description, because I'd like you to mark one stress. No roll, no nothing. I think this is just shit. What do we see of Frank Jensen, our navigator?
I think I think Frank picked up Yasmin's pack of smokes and lighter off of the table and is like standing, watching, and thumbing like a Zippo or whatever, like open, like ching, ching, and is just kind of like doing that in like a worry stone kind of way. Um, and might be trying to catch Thorn's eye, but is gonna be angling to talk to Thorn soon.
So would it be fair to say that the way that your stress has manifests has changed now from just that loss of appetite we saw earlier um, to playing with a Zippo lighter?
Yeah, yeah.
Click, flick, click, flick, click, flick.
I'm
Yeah,
glad they still
okay.
have Zippos in the future.
Of course they do. This is the retro future.
No, it is. I'm glad they have them. They obviously do. I mean, they couldn't have a future without them, really.
And then what do we make? What does our XO Thorn make of this?
Well, Thorn is, as we have recently seen, furious. But right now, she has tamped that down because this is a respect for the dead moment. And so she is standing at, parade attention.
Is there anything that indicates where that rage is focused, or is it just rage against the injustice of it all?
Um, she's got more than one target. Um, but the but it's mostly the captain. On the other hand, the captain is her superior officer.
Okay.
So there are limits, and the captain's already shouted me down. And so Thorn is not sort of in an active rebellious mood, but she is angry that someone got killed under her watch because they weren't briefed properly.
Okay.
Which is, it's like you sent us into danger without letting us know
Okay.
what could happen. So, but right now
Um,
she is trying to give Yasmin her respects. So all
and
that's thrust down.
tamped down, just waiting to explode. And I think Captain Mason says, the usual kind of stuff at these occasions. We all knew Yasmin. She was a good crewmate. Um, Something really, really weird happened. Let's get back to the mess and let's talk about what we do next. And then he goes away with, I think, probably the EDI Rep, Hohmann, going after him. Hey, Captain, 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 and then they're off down the corridor. So I'm curious. Now, Frank, you expressed an urge to have a scene with Thorn. Is that just the two of you, or is there anybody else there? Do you wait for the others to leave and then just, grab Thorn, or what?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yeah, I think, yeah, definitely probably more of a private conversation.
Okay. So Patsy and Tethis, the science officer, have left. The two Thorn's
Um,
about to leave, and then what do you say, Frank?
Uh, Say, Thorn, could I catch your ear for a minute?
Walk with me.
Mm,
Walk and talk.
Yeah.
yeah, good one.
Got to give the camera a chance at a nice long dolly shot. One of the things. But yes, no, well, Thorn is walking with purpose, but she's not too quickly as to prevent conversation.
mm.
Yeah, and the rest of the crew turn right to head straight to the galley. You go across and just take the slightly longer route round to buy a bit of time by going via, past MedLab. So what's the conversation, Frank?
Well, after whatever before the craziness and the mess, and after the craziness outside, um, Holman asked me to patch her through to Weyland-Yutani, and I caught a bit of the conversation. Um, and she was talking about acquiring the specimen, and that just doesn't seem right. That didn't sit well with me, especially considering the immediate aftermath and what's happened now. Starting to think things are not all above board.
The question is just exactly how many people knew there was a dangerous xeno here and didn't tell us, not whether anybody knew. It sounds like quite a lot of people may have known. Honestly, the captain, Tethis, now the WY rep, maybe not in that order.
Yeah, and maybe we weren't.
And they're
maybe we
still
weren't
not.
sent out
And they're still not telling us.
Right.
Even after we have seen it or them, I don't know.
Right. Makes me think that we weren't surveying this place at all.
Well,
or
it's kind of secondary conversation at this point, isn't it?
Yeah.
The question is, what are we going to do about it?
Wow. Yeah.
So I'm going to do one thing. He says, when we stop at a locker, which I thumb the combination into and pop open, and take the pulse rifle out.
Where did you get that?
Yasmin found it in the smelter area. It had been they abandoned it and had a jam. Easiest thing to clear in the world if you have time. I guess whoever ditched it didn't.
Yeah, you don't have a lot of time when
the
thing that's going to kill you is coming from inside.
Right. So, we sit somewhere and you see Thorn, working the bolt on it and popping the clip and, running it through. Her fingers are just running through the checks automatically almost. As she's talking with you. It doesn't seem to take any of her attention. She pops it back in. She thumbs the button. The little LEDs on the side light up. Seems to be all right.
We'll find out the first time you fire it, won't we?
We will.
So, Frank, any more questions? Any more observations you want to make?
What's the next move, Thorn? What do we?
Force protection. We until they tell us more, we are in force protection mode. Primary objective is to see that nobody else gets killed. Everything else is secondary. And if the captain or the rep or Tethis want to say anything to the contrary, they can say it through me. Don't let any of them send you out into danger.
I think that that's a good point to cut to Patsy. Patsy, on the way back to the mess, or when you get to the mess, do you find an excuse to have a quiet conversation with anyone, or what? What do we see of Patsy while they're having a discreet conversation?
I think I would wait because I want to know from Thorn what the hell happened out there. Why did I brought her on board this ship? I gave her a second chance. I took it, I staked my reputation on her, and now she's dead. I mean, over the past year or two, when we've been working together, I've gotten to know her really well. And she's about as close to a friend as I have. And I want to know what happened from the only other person who was there. It's not that I'm blaming Thorn for this. I'm not sure who to blame yet.
Okay.
But
well, let's I'm not going to go straight to that because I think given the way this is played out, you're going to be back in the mess around that table. where the captain is sitting there, you know, his hands are on the table, and he's saying, so this is weird and tragic. But what do we do about that worm thing that came out of Yasmin? And what do we do about the contract? I mean, Ms. Hohmann has explained to me that she considers the contract still to be in place. So if we want the bonuses, we're going to have to go through with the contract. But she's also made the point that the alternative might be, because I think I understood this right, that there's another one of these kind of what are we calling them? These egg-like things out there. Miss Hohmann has explained that if we could retrieve that and take it back, they could offer us double bonuses. So, you know, I hate to bring this down to the Bucks in this, but you know, Yasmin's gone. We need to make sure that the rest of us aren't suffering because of it. Patsy, you knew her best. What do you know? I can see her upset, but what do you think about this?
You mean to tell me there's another one of those things?
Well, I think that we picked that up from some of the comms. And he looks across at Thorn. Thorn, am I right? Did you know? Talk me through what happened out there, because that what I thought I heard was that you saw one of these things, and so did Yasmin, and Yasmin drew the short straw.
Yasmin communicated with me that she had found something, you know, something that looked like a bag, a leathery bag, or such like, and I spotted something of the same description. Then Yasmin called for help. I went to help her, and I found her down and unconscious with that thing on her face. And one of those eggs, for lack of a better term, broken open.
So there's at least two, which means there's more.
And perhaps whatever made those eggs, since I expect they didn't spontaneously generate.
Or what
Yeah.
they turn into.
But
right?
honestly, I think what happened to Yasmin right now is secondary to another problem that we have, which is worse, which is that we have a dangerous Xeno loose on this ship.
Yes, so
we saw it. Patsy, can you put together a motion detector?
there's one in the ship's locker, actually, Patsy. If you check out the character tab, go down to about row 25, there's a list of the stuff that's in the ship's locker.
Yeah, there's one around.
Because we have to find that thing and kill it.
So, says Mason, so what I'm hearing from Thorn is we need to track down this worm thing. But I still need to hear from you folks. Miss Hohmann's put an offer on the table here. Could be a very generous offer.
I don't think that we should move an inch until we have the entire picture here.
Frank,
it seems clear to me that some people here knew that there were Xeno threats here, and we still haven't been told.
And you know, the captain looks around the table looking, you know, what the fuck? You what? look, Thorn, if you know some stuff, then, what do you mean people knew? And he kind of looks around. Did you know? Did you know? Did you know? And nobody's saying yes. Frank, when he comes to you, and looks at you, what do you say at this point?
I mean, I can't spend double shares if I'm dead. So I'm not extra concerned about. I mean, if you expect us to even finish the survey, one of those things is on the ship. You locked it in here with us.
Okay, I hear that.
And if we're trying to, I mean, and at that point, the practical thing would be if we're not gonna kill it and get the fuck out of here, then we might as well just bring the one back that's already here if they're gonna pay us for it.
Okay, and he looks to Hohmann as if to say, "So we could, if we can catch this thing, that would count." And she says, "Well, I guess so."
Listen,
Tethis chimes up, and in that kind of slightly, I'm thinking of her a little bit like Rain Man at the moment. It's kind of talking sense, talking sense. Um, and so yeah, it would be possible to contain it. We probably I can knock up some kind. I mean, it's kind of yay big, so I mean, I could knock up some kind of container. We could, yeah, we could, and then looks at kind of, we could put it in the cryo with Yasmin.
at that point, I'm going to stand up, walk over to
I,
Tethys.
hey, no, I'm just saying, you wouldn't want it kind of just sitting in a jar for the
Tethys,
trip, but
you're a scientist, correct?
yes, Patsy.
I was in a former life a bit of a scientist as well. And the last time I checked, procedures are that when you encounter an unknown life form, you're quarantined. In this case, we already know that life form is deadly. So I think we should probably consider ourselves double quarantined at the moment.
All I'm saying is that quarantine would kick in when we got home, um, and we just need somewhere to keep it.
You don't take an unknown organism back to the fucking home planet.
But
We
but
don't know
as
what
I
that thing is or what it does.
but as I understand it, Miss Hohmann here is suggesting that there might be a cash bonus in that.
Are you a scientist, Tethys?
I am.
Do you follow the logic of science or do you follow the will of corporations?
Well, we live in a world where to ignore the corporations would be to make life very difficult for ourselves. So I guess I
Life is
like
already
to.
difficult for Yasmin. I mean, not not really that difficult anymore since she
Okay.
doesn't have one.
I hear what you say, Patsy. I hear what you say. And then so what I think is shaping up here is a hunt the bug scenario. Um, I think that Mason will, Thorn, you're very keen on this, and you have, bug hunting experience. Maybe, you were in the Corps, so I think Mason is happy to delegate the organization of this hunt to you. How do you see this playing out, Thorn?
2 teams of 3. Each team with a motion detector and a stun baton and a firearm.
Okay, so we know that you retrieved the captain's firearm when we retrieved Yasmin. So that is sitting there. There is a single motion tracker. You can see the available. So you have an incinerator unit, an industrial boat gun, a motion tracker, a fully charged power pack, a hand welder or cutter, and that single sidearm, and a set of walkie-talkies.
Where's this list, Alan?
It's down on the characters tab on row 25, all the way over to the left-hand side.
Oh, okay.
And a variety, you've got plenty of
Thank you.
EDA suits scattered about.
Okay. Patsy, can you fudge up a second motion tracker, or are we basically just one?
I
And
think
the rest of us will have
one.
to use our eyes. Okay. All right. Well, some of us will just have to use our eyes then, and would stay in contact. The two teams will stay in contact by radio.
So is, and go better on this for a moment, is this a player character team of 3 and a non-player character team of 3, or are you going to split this up?
Let me know your thoughts here.
I think Patsy would follow the Marine with the gun.
Okay, I think the PCs and the NPCs. I think that's the most opportunity for mayhem.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unless what will happen with the other 3?
Unless you feel strongly that drama wants something else, Alan.
Oh no, that works for me. That works for me. So we've got the 3 player characters in the form of Thorn, Frank, and Patsy, and then on the other side of that we've got Mason, Tethis, and a reluctant Hohmann. Ms. Hohmann kind of assumed that she'd just stay here. But that's a conversation that they're going to have between themselves. So that's the teams. How are you going to conduct the search? And of course, you could have the motion tracker because, I have to be able to say beep, beep, beep at intervals.
Yes. We split the ship in 2, start on one end and move to the other. And just start looking for, visually look for things like grates and such like that that have been displaced or damaged.
Okay.
And the motion tracker as well. Always, one set of eyes forward, one set of eyes back, one person investigating kind of thing.
We'll come to the tactics of that in a minute. So you're going to do this a deck at a time. You've got 3 decks. The tab that's labeled Bison class gives you some idea of the scale of this. And so what? One team starts at aft, the other team starts forward, and you work your way around?
Probably. Let's see. On the top deck, those are the big spaces are tankage and cargo, right?
Tankage, yeah. So
cargo. Okay.
They're largely sealed off.
Yeah. No, we'll go. We'll go by decks and then split deck 2. So we'll start. We'll start at the bottom, and
Fine.
the captain and crew could start at the top.
Fine. Because Hohmann canvases for that, because she'd much prefer to stay up here than down there in those dirty cathedral-like spaces that some of this constitutes. So down there on the sea deck, they're big spaces. Some of these spaces, they're not necessarily very well lit. There's that endless kind of drip, drip, drip of water from cooling systems down here. It's grungy. Now, Patsy, you are the expert down here. You know your way around B and C decks more than the others, I guess. Apart from Yasmin, better than anyone. What equipment are you aiming for here? We know that you're going to get a motion tracker. Thorn is keen that there's a motion tracker. Which, if any, of the ship's locker equipment do you want to have with you, Patsy?
I am marking motion tracker.
I'm thinking of as which we know that your team's got another motion tracker. What else on
Yep.
the ship's locker do you, as a team, do you want this team to have access to?
I'm thinking I'm thinking that Thorn and I had a quick conversation, and I said, if we see this thing, we're killing it, right? We're not worried about a bonus.
In the heat of the moment, lots of things happen.
Understood. So in that case, I want to have I'm going to have a flashlight, which seems obvious.
Yeah.
I want us to have the incinerator unit as well as the pulse rifle we found.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about what's in the ship's locker. Nobody knows about a pulse rifle. Oh, well, an increasing number of people know about the pulse rifle. But right
Okay.
now, Hohmann is not thinking about a pulse rifle as the only person on the other team who knows about it. So I'm hearing incinerator unit.
Yes.
Okay.
Um,
Frank, from that ship's locker list, what is the third item that that you think you would usefully want?
Oh, the bolt gun stands out.
Okay, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so what I'm hearing at the moment is that everyone can mark a flashlight, as long as you are prepared to add something to your equipment boxes. Um, uh, Thorn, you still got your illegal firearm, haven't you?
I do.
Are you taking the pulse rifle with you?
I am.
Are you going to keep both guns, or are you going to hand one of the guns to somebody else?
I will. I will offer my pistol. If Patsy's got the incinerator, I think I'll offer it to Frank.
Okay, Frank, what do
Incinerator's
you feel about that?
a big thing.
What do you think, Frank?
You want this as a backup, or shall I keep it?
That couldn't hurt. I know my way around it. Yeah.
Okay.
Better
Okay.
something designed for the purpose than not.
Okay,
This
so
is assuming I feel comfortable with the way the pulse rifle checked out.
so far it lit up.
Okay.
No way to know until it's out there in the field. So Frank, you can mark sidearm down
Okay.
there on row 42. And you can also mark flashlight, which is down there somewhere above it, I think, row 30 odd.
Okay.
And each one of those means that you mark one of the boxes on your equipment track. So you are still quick in terms of each one of those marks one. Yeah?
Yep. Okay.
One for the sidearm, one for the flashlight. So you are only marking, yeah, where's it gone? Yeah, two. Good. In the case of Thorn, you are marking a flashlight and a pulse rifle, which means you're marking 3 of your equipment slots, which means you're not as quick as Frank, for instance, though survival might help.
That's fine. I put the flashlight into the clip on the rifle.
Patsy, are you you've got a flashlight, you've got the motion tracker and the incinerator unit. So you have indeed marked 4. So you are on the edge of getting slow. Okay.
Well, and being an engineer, I have, as always, as engineers do, kludged together a solution, and I have basically duct taped the motion tracker and the flashlight to the incinerator unit so that I can see the incinerator, I can see the motion tracker, and have the business end of the incinerator unit at whatever is ahead of us.
Okay, so drop the incinerator, drop it all. That's fine by me. So that is what we see then. So now you're down in these very high ceilinged, they're badly lit. You can't actually see the roof very often in these compartments. They're often taller than they are wide, and we see you setting off. Now, just to explain a rule here, you will notice, Patsy, that the motion tracker And indeed, the incinerator unit comes with a 4-box power track. Every time you use it, you'll mark one of those. And when
Okay.
you've marked all 4 of them, the power pack's used up. Okay, just so you know.
All right. Thanks for the heads up.
There's a spare power pack up in the ship's locker, but I think you've chosen the 3 items that you want with you. So
Yeah.
down you go. And when I say use it, I mean it's going to be going beep, beep, beep. But every time you roll and want that to count against a roll, you mark a checkbox. Every time you attack something or use the incinerator, you mark it. Likewise,
Sure.
Frank, every time you use the industrial bolt gun, it consumes a bit of power. Okay. The only way that the pulse rifle gives out is if you get a result where I might say, well, you succeed, but it's jammed, or you succeed, but your ammo's gone down. Okay? So, with all that in mind, off we go into the bowels of Engineering Deck 2, down Deck C. Patsy, you've got the motion tracker. What do we see you doing?
I'm slowly sweeping it back and forth, basically rotating in about a 90-degree arc as we slowly walk forward. So basically 45 degrees to my left, 45 degrees to my right.
Swing and swing and swing. I guess you want to know if you're picking anything up, do you?
I mean, that would be helpful.
So let's have you roll to investigate down here. So in terms of expertise, do you have observation or something similar?
Let me see what I have. I have science and machines.
Machines. I'll give you the benefit of machines, so because you begin to be able to kind of sort out the difference between machines, what you're seeing ahead of you. So I'll give you the benefit of expertise just to get the ball rolling.
Alrighty.
You can have the stress dice if you want.
Of course I want the stress die.
And
Why
if
would I
you
not
want to,
want the stress die?
and if you want to tick a box on the motion tracker, I'll give you the bonus dice.
Do we want the bonus die?
Uh,
I'm putting this up for a party poll, as it were.
3 dice is pretty good, but use your judgment.
Yeah, I'm good either way.
Once, if we spawn anything, boy, do I want to start using the bonus die.
There.
So roll some dice. Oh,
There's 5 on expertise.
5. So I think that I'm going to say that you do a fairly complete sweep of the deck. And it's clear that you're not picking up anything in the deck, but a couple of times you just got to ping off some of the duct system. That's what you need to proceed. Now, do you want to ask me a question on that 5?
Ooh. Can I save that question?
No.
Maybe
Okay.
Tell us something about the nature of the ducts.
I can tell you
like
that I'll tell you that for nothing. I mean, so these are ducts that are big enough for people that do not need to be big enough for people. They're there for circulation of air, and they're the ducting through which various power conduits and the like kind of flow, but they are big enough for people to crawl down. And they run kind of parallel or across from and into the main kind of passageways of the ship. So you can broadly get from anywhere to anywhere by prizing a grill off the wall or off the floor and getting into the duct system. So you can have that for nothing. Is there anything you want to ask, given what I've told you, Patsy? Or anybody else, because you polled the table. Frank, anything you want to know before we move on?
So I kind of had a mechanical question actually.
Go
on. So the Intel resource.
Aha.
Yeah. on the danger and intel tab under player intel or whatever, it says you can reduce danger once they've encountered a xenomorph of any kind as they use what they've learned to cover their tracks and or become more careful.
You can.
I was just wondering if that is something that I have the positioning to do.
Yes, you have. I have no problem with that. It gives you a bit of control over, how bad things get, how quickly. So I'm very happy for you to turn that off, which would mean that we would move from having one box on the Hive is active track to just having a full passive track. So yeah, you can do that. I'd also point out, Frank, that you can spend an intel to reduce your stress by 1 if your stress is already 4 or 5. Because one of the things I'm going to ask you all in a moment is whether you want to seek relief from the horror, because all of you have some stress. So, Frank, do you, there's another potential use for that intel?
Yeah, I think yeah. I'll spend the intel, I'll lose the stress, and I think Frank's now like smoking a cigarette out of Yasmin's pack.
Fine. And I point everyone at that danger and intel because, it's the way that you can quickly recover your expertise without waiting for stress to go up. It's also a way to discover some information without rolling, as they compel or convince an NPC to share what they wouldn't otherwise volunteer or recognize the importance of or interrogate systems. So, you've always got the option to spend intel to ask me a question, crudely put. Bit of exposition would be necessary, but,
Quick question, and I forgot to ask this last time. What happens to Yasmin's intel?
Oh, Yasmin's intel unfortunately goes with her.
Okay.
Sad but
So
true.
it can't be transferred over to another player. Got it.
No, you need to take some risks, Patsy, to build up some intel now.
Yasmin already took all the risks, and look where it got her.
So with that in mind, what I've done is I'm assuming, Frank, you've knocked down one of your intel and I've got rid of a danger. Have you also taken one down so your stress goes down? I think you have.
Yep.
So that leaves everyone except Patsy sitting on 1. I am going to go to Thorn, though, and ask, I notice your stress is at 3. Do you want to do anything about that?
Not right now.
Okay. What about you, Frank? Your stress is sitting on 2. What do you want to do anything about that? You've already done something. Hey.
Right. Yeah, I think that's all Frank has for now. I think I'm good.
I mean, Patsy, you're in a heightened emotional state. You've got 1 stress. Are you tempted to do anything about that?
Not right now.
Okay. So I've still got 1 question about the ducts and the fact that occasionally you've picked up just bing 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 in there. Do you have a question about this? Things that might come to my mind would be
Can we seal off the ducts?
aha. Oh yeah. Yeah, you can. It's not a very sophisticated system, but you can certainly seal some junctions. So you could try to narrow down the options of whatever's up there.
So we could at least corral it, if not contain it completely.
That would be something you could try, certainly. What do you want
I
to
will
do?
relay that information to everybody else.
Okay. So
But only the people on my team, because Thorn has already said, accidents happen.
If that thing's in the ducts, yeah, we're gonna have to corner it, which means we're gonna have to cut off retreat until we have a fairly boxed in area, and then we can go in after it.
Okay. So I do want to ask a question on that question of just this team. Have you taken a walkie-talkie so you could communicate with the other team?
I desired someone to.
Okay.
I'll take it if no one else took it.
That would mean that you're all averagely paced. Because walkie-talkies.
No, Frank is fast. Frank is fast.
Oh yeah, he is. So okay. So I'll take a walkie-talkie out of, and I'm going to assume the captain has the other walkie-talkie.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And you've not left them much. I'm going to assume they've got the hand welder. Stroke cutter. That would make sealing off some bits of this system easier if you had the hand welder, but c'est la vie. Which way are you coming at this? Is the objective to create a dead end and then drive this thing into it? Or
that seems like the way to go.
And we want them to create the dead end?
Say it again?
And we want them to create the dead end?
Who's
so they
them?
drive it to us? The captain and Hohmann and Tethis.
They're still up on A deck.
Yeah, if it's down here, this is falling to us. So if it's in the ducts down here, the first thing to do is to keep it from getting out of this area. And then we can find a hatch near to the closed off thing and start to drive it.
Okay. So who do we think is the most obvious person to undertake the work? Because both Frank and Patsy have machines. So Frank, I'm going to come to you. Patsy can provide the instructions, but you're the big guy who actually has to, because all of this, of course, is mechanical. You know, there's no kind of press a button and boom, seal off a bit of the system. So Patsy's providing you with some kind of general instructions. Let's have you roll with machines to do something else. Yeah? So you're going to roll the gray dice, the orange dice. Would you like the stress dice?
Yeah. Yep. Going for it.
Go for it then.
Oh,
look at that. Oh, look at that. And it's on the... So you failed, and there is a 3 on the stress dice, so stress goes up by 1, Frank.
Stressful failure.
A stressful failure, the worst kind, which means that I will mark active. And let me see what consequences I can throw at you for that. So, yeah, right. Okay. So, Frank, you go over to this big wheel, you know, while the others are kind of just watching the other way, and it's dripping with this kind of slimy material. What do you do?
like wipe my hands and like, what is it sticky? And like, yeah, it's the alien goo. I get it.
It's sticky and
now
repulsive.
I do notice you have heavy coveralls and gloves as your in your locker item. So you're wearing heavy coveralls and gloves. So that's ideal for this.
A little bit helpful.
Yeah. So
yeah.
And of course this doesn't get done often, so it's kind of
right.
You're kind of trying to make it move, and it's moving really slowly. And then,
do you say anything, Frank?
Is it? Yes, maybe. Yeah, like, hey Thorn, you want to throw your shoulder into the other side of this thing? I'm having a hard time getting it moving here.
Sure. What the hell? It's like, yeah, I'm gonna look up. You know, third thing they can then put and point my flashlight at up.
Yeah, of course. And I think what I can tell you is that the reason that this is where this kind of mechanical closure for this section of the duct system is, that above you there is a grill in the ducts, and this stuff has dripped down out of that grill.
What the hell is this?
Do you wander over, Patsy? Because that looks like they're having a conversation more than anything else.
Yeah.
I'm still on the motion detector.
Okay. Okay. Right.
I was gonna say, is that thing
Do
gone
you
off?
do you want to activate the motion tracker? I'm just curious. I want to tick that little box saying
Yeah,
in terms of the power supply. Patsy,
Yeah.
what are you
Patsy,
thinking?
Let's go ahead.
Okay.
something's dripping, and
Let's
it's
have
not
you
machine oil.
roll. I think machines doesn't work for this. Of course it doesn't. So I shouldn't have given you expertise last time. You can have the grey dice. You can have the bonus dice if you mark power being used, and you can have the stress dice if you'd like it.
So gray dice, bonus dice, stress dice. And I cannot use my expertise for this.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I've had second thoughts about that. I don't think it works.
All right.
It's Comtech you need to use, something like that.
There
Ooh,
is a
close
4
one
on the bonus
thing.
die.
There's a
Ooh,
4 there. Um, there's a quite strong signal not far away in the duct system. And where that signal is coming from, you can trace that back to this grill. So you get that for nothing. Do you want to ask me a question?
Is the grill overhead?
It's over the control wheel that they're now
Okay.
beginning to
Yeah.
shift.
Okay.
But this is on that side of the control of this closure you're trying to activate.
Okay. I'm gonna walk over there and just have the incinerator fired up and ready.
Okay.
Say, Thorn,
yeah.
we're getting a ping. It's pretty strong.
All right.
Might want
Um,
to hurry up with that.
yeah. Uh, keep the flamer pointed at that grill,
So at which grill?
and
The
the
one
one where
above you,
the one that's where the drips are coming from.
because Patsy was about to head off in that direction to follow the
Oh,
ping.
oh, I'm sorry. Oh, so she
Oh,
followed a different one. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
misunderstood. Um,
yeah, same.
Yeah, sorry. You can
then
trace where the
I'll
ping
say,
is
then
back
I'll
to the
say, yeah,
grill.
then I'll say, you know, watch it while we close this thing.
Just hurry up.
Yep.
And I think that what I'm going to give you, because Frank failed initially on this, I'm going to give you success at a cost. The cost is it takes time. And Patsy, the ping disappears. Whatever it is,
Gotcha.
stop moving. But it was
Or
on,
moved out of sensor range.
or moved out of sensor range or something. So, but you know which side of the barrier you've now put in place it is. Yeah?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What happens next? Because now you've closed off that, you know it's on the grill side of the barrier you've put in place. So somebody could get up in there now and just follow it.
Yeah, that's what somebody's going to have to do.
Can we Can we like find the outlet of the duct
At the other
elsewhere, or
end.
do we have to? Or do we have to get into the duct?
No, I
The
think thematically we have to get in through this thing.
well, I mean, the more ducts you close off, the easier potentially, or the fewer escape routes you will leave it. So up to you, really.
Listen, I've got well, this thing. I mean, Thorn, you said that thing moves fast. Well, this covers
Yeah.
a wide area, a lot wider area than your pulse rifle. You two proceed to the next junction point. I will follow in the ducts because frankly, I know them better than either one of you.
That's true.
So I've got the motion tracker, I've got me a flashlight, I've got the incinerator. You know, as long as that thing isn't behind me or above me or below me, I'm fine. Or, you know, as long as it doesn't come out of like a side duct. So, I mean,
Yeah.
there's like There's only 5 directions that it can come from where I might be in trouble. And I laugh a little bitterly at that.
So what I think I'm seeing is, I'm seeing Patsy with the incinerator on, going up and kind of just levering open it, bang, comes down the grill. And she clambers up inside, and it again, there's that goo kind of drips out when you let it come down. And you pull yourself up and put the torch around. And there, I'm going to get rid of one of those. I'm going to get rid of that active danger because I'm going to declare that there you find this weird kind of membrane. And you hold it down and say, what do you think this is?
It's is it kind of chitinous, almost like it's a shell?
I wouldn't describe it as a shell. I describe it as membranous.
Okay.
Like a skin almost. Because those of us in the audience know exactly what this means. And I think as you hold that down and say, what do you think this is? We go to our first commercial break. Yeah?
Yeah.
Fine by me.
So I can freshen my tea. Can I suggest we're back in our seats at 5 past the hour?
Yep.
That works for me.
See you then. So we pick up with Patsy holding this skin. It kind of resembles a used condom. It's kind of slimy and yeah, Thorn, Frank, what do you make of this thing? Patsy's halfway into the duct and is showing you this thing. On with the show.
That.
Good question.
I want to know. Yeah, I'm going to communicate about it.
Okay, Frank, you okay? Patsy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm yeah, I don't know. But be ready for anything, I guess.
And so far, no communication with the team on A deck. As Patsy pulls herself into the, and you see the
I think,
legs kind of disappearing.
No, I'm going to pause now and I'm going to talk to the captain.
Thorn, this is Mason. What you found it?
We haven't found it. We found traces though. Some goo in one of the
Goo?
ducts and something that looks like a cast off skin of all things.
That's weird. What, kind of like
Yeah,
a rat skin or something?
something like that.
Damn
Bigger,
rats.
bigger though. No, bigger than rat. And nothing I've ever seen before.
Okay.
We're tracking it down. We think we've got a line on it, but we're not 100% sure.
So should we come down?
Is it cut off from the other decks, Alan?
No.
No. Negative on that. We're trying to corral it, assuming it's still down here. We're trying to corral it, but we haven't done that yet. Haven't managed to seal off enough of the.
Well, that explains we've just completed A deck. We can't find any sign of it up here. So we're going to head down to B deck, and
Yeah.
maybe we meet somewhere down there.
Pay attention to the ventilation ducts.
Okay.
It seems to be small. It seems to be small enough to get around in there.
Okay. And then I think we cut to
Right.
Patsy, making the torch light as you kind of make your way along. You could probably just about crouch here. It's maybe a meter high, meter a bit wide, but it's much easier if you kind of crawl through these ducts, Patsy. What do we see? Describe what we see of Patsy?
I think every step I take, the audience at home sees some sort of viscous fluid kind of like pull up as my boot lifts off the metal. But I am kind of going through here in a duck walk
Okay. Okay.
because I don't want to be crawling through here and try to get that flamethrower up.
Okay. So it's, yeah, I go with that.
And I mean, the good news is it's a flamethrower. If it's behind me, I'm probably screwed. If it's in front of me, it's screwed. As long as I don't have any, anytime I come to some sort of junction where there's, a right or left passage or an up or down passage, I check to make sure that I don't see any of that weird fluid stuff, that jelly of some kind.
Okay.
But I'm
And
just proceeding it through it slowly and surely, calling down every so often to make sure that Thorn and Jensen are more or less where I need them to be to shut things off.
Okay, now I'm curious, Thorn and Jensen. Are you together, or is one of you trying to track, Patsy as she makes her way through these ducts, while the other person is going ahead to the next junction point to see whether there's any mileage in closing that off? How are you doing this?
Yeah, that seems like a good division of labor.
So
you think so,
who's going
Frank?
to go? Frank, are you good at, because, given your machinery expertise, are you the guy who's running ahead to kind of go to the next junction where the wheel's waiting, just in case you get the go signal?
Yeah, I think that makes the most sense, right?
While Thorn, occasionally you hear that kind of dunk dunk as the elbows of Patsy bang on the side of this trunking, this ducting. So you're kind of trying to keep track of where she is. Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Occasionally checking with her through grates and such.
yeah, okay. What I think is clear is that every time you come to a grate, there's a little pool of this viscous material on the ground. There's clearly, you see little kind of drips of it just hanging off the grate. And Patsy, you'll see that from the other side. And Frank, there's always a grating by one of these kind of valve closures. And I think probably the first one you get to, there's a duct, there's a grill above it, and there's goo on this wheel again. You okay, Frank? Oh yeah, I'm fine, says Frank. Yeah, of course. I'm just fine.
Jim
Yeah,
did.
yeah. Lighting
Totally
the
signed up for
third
this.
cigarette in the last 20 minutes for the first time in a decade or something, right? Yeah.
At
Doing
least,
great, doing great.
At least we know that goo isn't flammable.
Um uh let's have you come to your first significant junction, Patsy. Are you trying to work out if there's anything around these corners? Because it's a T-junction. So you need to work out, is there anything around those corners before you get there? Or do you just spin round and trust to the left?
I'm trusting the motion detector.
Okay. So do you want to activate do you want to just investigate this junction?
Yeah, I want to investigate it. If I let's see how the first roll goes.
Yeah.
Because I can roll with stress and gray dice, correct?
You can
But
roll
not
gray and
expertise.
stress, but you can't get expertise. You've got the option on the bonus dice if you tick a power unit on the motion tracker. Because it's there all the time, but for it to be significantly helpful,
Yeah.
I'm going to charge you some power. Beep.
Yeah, I'm gonna tick.
Beep. Okay,
So,
then you can roll all 3 of those dice if you want to.
and a
Oh,
good
look
thing
at
I
that.
did because the 5 is on the motion tracker.
It is, it is. There is nothing either side of this junction. And there's nothing to say whether it went left or it went right, unless you want to ask me a question about that.
Oh, of course I do.
Okay, it went left. So Frank, that means that you can close off the right one. Yeah?
Yeah.
Let's have you roll to do that. Roll to do something else using your machinery expertise. That's gray and orange. Stress if you'd like it.
Boy. Yeah, I do like it. Well, we'll see.
Like quotes.
Ooh, all right.
Oh, wow. A 6. This spins like it's weird. Maybe some of this goo has got into the mechanism. It feels like it kind of moves more easily.
Sure,
Maybe it
yeah.
lubricates. Gee whiz. So that goes beautifully. What benefit do you mark intel before I forget? What benefit do you get? You get an extra benefit. You close this section off, job's a good one. But you can get an extra benefit.
Extra.
Block the access to deck 2.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Is that something we can
Yeah,
accomplish here?
I think so. I think there's an up location here that if you do that one as well,
Yeah,
then
yeah,
you can close off the up access from C deck to B deck. There may be
yeah.
another one down the road that does that, but what the heck?
Right, for now.
Mark intel. But what's interesting is that when you go to do the second one, you kind of look down because you think, this gooey stuff's slippery. But you look down and there's another piece of this kind of weird flaccid material. Only you and this is kind of a sheet, kind of this big. Just as
Yeah,
well you
that's
got those
rough.
heavy duty gloves, Frank.
Right.
Yeah. Roll for stress, because
Okay.
that's freaky.
Tis.
Oh, a 6. Stress goes up by 1.
Oh no.
Let me just check in on our stress position at the moment. Oh, Frank, stress is 4. Keep an eye on
5.
that one. Oh, 5. Oh,
5.
you are walking the bleeding edge of stress, Frank. What are you going to do about that? Do you want to seek relief from the horror, or what do you want to do?
Hmm.
Spend an intel.
Yeah, actually,
You
there
could
you
spend
go.
intel.
Yep, that sounds like the better plan, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Let's do that. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Let's keep it
Okay.
simple. Keep it
Yeah,
simple.
you cut it you cut off part of the access to B deck. That much closer to cornering this thing.
Absolutely. Thorn, there are quite big gaps between these kind of valve closures, these
Yeah,
points of junction. So, there's quite a bit of space between you and Frank, and you're certainly not always in line of sight, out of torchlight down
right.
here. Just thought you'd want to know that.
I appreciate the heads up. Um,
How's it going? Says Mason.
um, we're slowly closing off parts of the ductwork system,
Okay, well,
cutting down the scope of where this can be.
we're working our way through B deck, just in case it moves up, not along.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's get back to Patsy. So you go round the corner, you carry on, Patsy. And you're gradually working your way towards one side of C deck. And soon you're going to be kind of running over some of the fuel tankage area, for what it's worth. So what do you do next, Patsy? Just keep on keeping on?
Slow and steady wins the race.
Do you want to see how close you are? Use the motion tracker?
I'm curious about how many more ducts or junctions we need to close off.
Once you close off 3, I will give
Mhm.
you the bonus dice to kind of corner it. What about that? And you've
Fair
closed off
enough.
2.
So, all right. Am I seeing anything different? I mean, you've mentioned that it started off with this goop, and now this thing is basically creating what looks like some sort of film or sheet of some sort.
Yeah.
Is there
Uh,
anything new that I'm starting to see?
no, I think you will see shreds of this material. Yeah.
Okay. In that case, I'm just going to proceed onward to the next junction point.
And I think if I go a bit further than that, I think you are probably... No, I'll save that up for your next junction. Do you want to investigate the junction, see what's on the other side of it? Out of
Yeah,
sight? Go ahead. Do you want to use the motion tracker? Because you're rolling grey and orange. Green if you want it, and you mark power, you can use the bonus dice. Oh, who wouldn't want to do that?
I definitely want to use the tracker.
Okay, tick the power, roll 2 dice and stress if you want it.
Oh, of course I want the stress die. Why wouldn't I want the stress die? That is a 6 on
Oh,
the bonus die, so I will mark intel.
wow. Okay, mark intel.
Mm-hmm.
And the
Let me
motion
roll for
tracker.
stress real quick.
Well, go ahead.
Stress goes up
Yeah, because the
because it is
motion
over
tracker
2.
goes bing, 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 bing. There's something active around that corner.
I'm going to yell, I got something.
Hold.
And I'm just like kind of knocking my foot against the side of the ducts to try to indicate with sound where I
Yeah.
am.
Where you are. And Frank and Thorn, I mean, Thorn has been tracking this.
Yeah.
Frank, are you
So,
going to try to come back to where you hear this go, dang, 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 dang?
so,
Yeah, I think so.
so she's
Okay,
at a T intersection, right?
she is.
And she thinks that there's activity around one leg of it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to see if I can find the duct that goes to the other leg, so
Okay,
that I can
okay,
approach across the T where we've got a field of fire and not necessarily something about to jump
okay,
us at melee range.
okay. Do you want... I mean, I tell you what, if Patsy, you wanted to burn that, I got a 6, so I get, even more questions. You could transfer that into getting Thorn or Frank to behind where that activity is. That could be your additional question. How can somebody get behind this thing?
I managed
What
to
do you
mute
think?
myself as I was talking. I absolutely want to do that. I want this thing in a clear field of fire where I want it in a crossfire where Thorn and I are not, I'm not going to cook Thorn and Thorn isn't going to put holes in me. At least not
Okay,
more holes than I
okay,
started with.
okay. I think for one question, because you've got a 6, basic
Mm-hmm.
information, something around that corner. Answer the first question. Is there a way for Thorn or somebody else to get behind this thing? Answer, yes. Is there a way to do that so you're not either side and likely to
Mm-hmm.
shoot at one another? You would have to move it a little bit further down to where there's a cross section, and then
Mm-hmm.
you can drive. If you can drive it towards that cross section, there is a place where Thorn could get a side view of it.
Okay.
Do you see what I mean?
I absolutely see what you mean. Would burning a charge on the incinerator unit accomplish that?
I don't know. Shall we find out?
God damn it, you want me to roll again?
Well, let's just sort out what the plan is. So what I'm
Sure.
hearing is Patsy's going to go around that corner and unleash hell. Thorn, meanwhile, is running to that branch over there. I'm going to try to get into the side approach to the next junction. And the hope is that Patsy's going to drive whatever this is towards that junction, so Thorn gets a field of fire. Frank, what's your part in this? Or are you just happy that you don't have one?
Maybe a little bit of that, but I think I would like catch up with Thorn as they're jumping into this like duct work or whatever, and I might, just confer with them quickly, like, should I stay here? Do you want me to advance to the next like junction and get ready to close it off in case this fails? Like, what's the plan? I know what you're doing. What am I doing?
Yeah. So if Patsy drives it towards me, I'm going to get a strong field of fire on it. But if I don't take it down, it might, I don't know what the junctions are like up there. So it might go in that direction, it seems to me.
So do you want could Frank go along there and try to limit the ways out of that junction?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, Frank. So you're going to go over there and start trying to move the wheel, try and close off the junction, while Thorn, gets a ladder from over there, clambers up, and Patsy is kind of ready to go. Now, the difficulty is that you're not in communication. So this could, Frank and Thorn are, but Patsy could just go off on one now any second. So, Frank, let's start with you. Let's have you roll to close off this junction, the third junction in this sequence. You get the grey dice, you get the expertise dice, you can have the stress dice if you'd like
it. Yeah, spend the stress. Why
not? 6 on the stress dice. Aren't you glad you rolled it? Because on a 6, stress goes up by 1. Yep. To 5 again. But this goes brilliantly. Not only do you manage to close one exit off this, you get to close the second one as well. Because this is a cross section. This is a cross junction. And now what this means is that where my elbow is where Thorn's going to be. Where my other elbow is where Patsy's going to be. And you've closed off both the other exits. This is a shoo-in.
Yeah, unless it goes horribly wrong and the only way out is through one of them. Yes, absolutely.
So let's find out. So Thorn, do you crawl up into this space, or are you just head and shoulders in this space?
Say again, please. Say again, please.
Are you head and shoulders up in this space, or are you crawled into the space and either duck walking or lying down?
Well, with the rifle, I think I've had plenty of practice crawling. Okay. When you're in a field of fire, a lot of times the only way you can get anywhere is to crawl. So crawling with a weapon in my hand is second nature. Okay. And I think that's what I'm doing.
So you crawl up into the space. Fine, you're fully in the space. Patsy, you hear Thorn you can hear the of, maybe 20 yards away, the sound of Frank closing off a second exit at the next junction. And you've got a reasonable mental picture of this. Straight on would go over the fuel tankage. The other 2 ones run aft and forward on the ship. So what do you do, Patsy?
I'm going to yell, remember, we're over the fuel tanks. It's not a problem if you shoot them if you don't mind exploding.
Yeah. And Thorn thinks to himself, you're the one with the weapon that can set off that can cook the fuel off.
And what do you do?
Just because Thorn's the one with the expertise with
no
killing things.
Thorn appreciates it.
So I'm going to I don't know if this counts as an attack because we haven't seen it, but I definitely want to burn a charge on the incinerator unit to move it in Thorn's direction. Now, if that happens to damage it, A plus. But
Okay. Yeah, I get that.
so this is this roll to do something else, or is this
I'm
engaging?
just wondering what to do with my current stock of danger. Uh,
Well,
no,
I
that's
have an
okay. That's
intel.
okay. Oh, go on.
I'm thinking I can reduce danger by spending intel, correct?
You can.
All right. I'm going to burn my intel to reduce the danger.
Okay, I will take the top danger off passive.
Yeah.
And you go round the corner.
Yeah, I at least want to reduce the danger for Thorn, if not for myself.
Okay.
So what am I rolling to do here? Is this
Okay.
do something else?
Okay.
Is this
No,
engaging or
I
confronting
think
them?
there's confront. When a threat surprises you, blah. If you turn a high blah, if you engage a warrior queen up close and personal, say how you die. If you attack a threat with the objective of hurting them, subduing them, driving them off, or avoiding their attempt to hurt you, roll a d6. So I think this is about drive them away, isn't it? Because you want to drive them away from you into Thorn's field of fire. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Good
Okay.
enough.
So you're going to roll a d6, the grey dice. You can all use, weapons, inverted commas, so you can have the orange expertise dice.
I roll stress, and I'm spending a charge on the incinerator, so that means bonus die, correct?
It does.
All right, so there's 4 dice.
There are. Go for it.
There's 4 fours right in the line.
Okay. So, so 4, you succeed. And there's a kind of, you spin around the corner, just go, fill the duct with fire. You hear a scream and scrape, 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 scrape away from you. Yeah.
Yep.
Thorn.
Hey, I'm happy to hear that.
Thorn. You hear something, scrabbling along the 20 yards or so of ducting before the corner, and you can see that the 2 other exits out of this junction have been closed by Frank. And then something comes screaming round the corner. Let us go to warrior xenomorph behaviors. Would you like to roll a d6, please, for what this warrior does when it sees you?
Certainly.
3. 3. 2 to 3. It tries to grab you. Do you confront it at range or flee for your life? Or do you do something else?
No, I try to blow it to pieces.
You confront it at range. Fine. Let's do that. Yeah, let's do that thing. So, you are using the rifle. So confront them. You get to roll a d6 because you're shooting at it. You get to use your small arms expertise, which is the green die, the orange dice. If you're using a weapon that is heavy or you have deadly, and I think both those things are true, you get to roll a bonus dice. And then you also have the option on the stress dice. But you are also going to roll. This threat is not yet able to do you harm, but is going to be coming at you while you fire at it. They are a warrior. Add a risk die. You are not outnumbered. So you're going to roll just 1 risk die. So 4 of your die and 1 of mine.
I don't get the stress die for free, right? So it'd be 3 dice.
No, you've always got the option to add the stress dice in.
Right. Okay. Here we go. 6.
6. So, actually the pulsar is going to, isn't it? It's much more lots of rounds in very little time. So on a 6, you succeed brilliantly.
It's a machine gun.
Yeah, you succeed brilliantly, and a GM will agree with you what extra benefit you get, such as applying extra stress to the target, hitting a second target. Don't know. Take your pick. Do you want to apply 1 stress or 2?
To the target.
To the target.
I want to put bullets into it until it stops moving.
Okay, well, you put bullets into it. Let's
I mean,
start
this
with
is
that.
this is Marine training. It's like,
Yeah, I get that.
if it once it stops moving, then it's not a threat until
Okay.
it does. It is.
Happily, that 2 on the wrist die means that there is no acid splash coming in your direction, even at this, from the fact that you work out. But I am applying stress to it. Sadly, not enough stress to stop it in its tracks. So roll another d6 for what it does next. Because it was closing, it was aiming to capture you.
5.
5. 4 plus. It pauses, assessing the threat you pose and or your potential value to the hive. What do you do before it rolls again?
Fire at it again.
Okay. Acid is leaking from it. And down below, because this is the junction, Frank, where you are, you look up and you see just holes appearing in the duct. And acid is dripping down onto the deck between your feet when it goes and goes through. So, Frank, what do you do when you begin to see these holes appearing in the duct above?
Yeah, accompanied by pulse rifle fire. Probably just like back away. I think, yeah, exactly. Yeah, just like that. Yeah. Yep.
Patsy, the initial burst of the flames go, and you can see this thing, in your torchlight, and it is what you expected it to be. It is an alien, a warrior xenomorph. You see it kind of peppered by rounds from Thorn, and then it kind of just pauses as though deciding what to do. What do you do at that point?
There's an alien. I have fire. I'm going to have me a barbecue.
So you head up towards it to get in, because these flavors don't have enormous range. So you head up towards it. You'll get to do something next. Now you're just making your way along. Thorn, you fire again while it's kind of considering you with its eyeless head. Now, same as before, you get the gray and the orange, the bonus die because it's a heavy weapon, and you get the stress dice if you want it. But I am going to require you now to roll 2 risk die because there is quite a lot of acid in play.
Yeah, and I don't really know it's acid. Right.
Well, I
The
bet you've got some
audience knows.
experience from, inevitably somebody tried to pry the
Oh,
the
yeah,
face
I
out of
suppose
you.
so. Yeah, okay. So it's like, oh, okay, acid blood.
And you can hear Frank down there saying, "Fuck, that's what the fuck." Okay, go for it, Thorn.
All right, here we go. We have
Ooh,
a 5, but
a
also a
5.
5 on one of the risk dice.
Yes, I noticed that. So you have done, more, as it kind of struggles in the hail of fire. So you do more stress to it, but some of that acid is coming your way. Because the risk die is equal to or greater than your best,
Right.
you will see there is a harmful consequences. Now, modify the highest roll. You're going to roll 1 dice. You can add the stress dice if you'd like to, because you get to pick the best one if you roll 2. But you're gonna subtract 1 from the highest dice because of the fact this is a warrior. So do you want to roll a stress dice, or do you want to stick with the?
So this is for the effect
the effect
of the
on you. Yeah. High is
Yeah.
good.
I think I'll roll the stress die this time.
Okay, so roll 2 dice, including the stress die. A 6, and it's not even on the stress dice. Holy
Yes.
shit. So you take the highest one, you subtract 1 because it's a warrior.
Yep.
4 plus. You were lucky this time. It hurts, but you'll live. So there's kind of little spatterings, just wow. But on a natural 6, also mark intel. And because it was so close, roll for stress.
No.
Hey,
No more than I already have.
no, fine. And Frank, down below, this is beginning to look like damp tissue paper up there now. And you were stepping further away as more of this creature's body fluids leak from these wounds. But it's still moving up there. Patsy, it's still moving up there. What are you going to do?
It's still moving.
Fuck this thing. I'm pulling the trigger on the incinerator unit.
Mark a power pack point off there, and you get to roll with expertise and with the bonus dice, stress dice if you want it. You are close enough to be at risk of some acid, given how much is now sloshing about back there.
So add 1 risk die.
You had 1 risk die. It would be 2, but I think the fact is that the hope is the flame will take out most of those splashes. So have a go.
That is 3
that was
5s.
the hope.
Wow. So 5 on a stress die means stress goes up by 1 automatically, but you do apply stress to it. Thank God for that. But unfortunately...
Wait, so my stress goes up automatically?
No. Yes, yours does, because you're relying on that 5. Equal to or greater
There's
than
2 other
any other
5s.
dice. No, equal to or greater than. So
right.
Stress automatically goes up, and you've got a 6 on the risk dice. So some of that acid is coming your way. Do you want to roll just 1 dice, or do you want to add the stress dice to improve your chances of getting the roll you'd like?
Look, if I'm not rolling the stress die, am I even playing Alien?
Well, bear in mind, if it comes out higher, stress will go up by 1.
Well, of course, it should go up by 1. All right, so that's just the basic die and the stress die.
If you want to add the stress die.
Right. I don't suppose that I could add science expertise in on this.
No, never applies to harmful consequences.
Gotcha. Look at that. The
4,
stress die is equal to or tied with 2.
stress goes up by 1, but on a 4, now -1 if it's a warrior or a queen. So that turns into a 3, which is 1 to 3. The consequences are serious. Tell the GM if it's mortal. Fill your stress track and die. It's bloody. You'll die after 1 more action without medical treatment. Or it's painful. You cannot use your expertise until you get medical treatment.
Okay. Let me ask this. Have I done enough damage to kill this thing?
I think I want to know what you do before I tell you the outcomes of this scene. Because I don't think Patsy knows that right now.
You see, I kind of want to offer you a trade.
I'm not interested
Killing
in
the
trade.
xenomorph at the expense of another PC?
I already have the hand and I have the cards. So, simple question. Mortal, fill your stress trust and die. Bloody, you die after 1 more action without medical treatment. It's painful, you cannot use your expertise until you get medical treatment. All of those are equal.
You know what? Just to add to the fun, let's do bloody. So I can do one more thing, because
exactly so.
Given what you've described, I mean, I don't think it's going to want to keep going in Thorn's direction.
Good point. Good point. So bloody, you will die after 1 more action without medical treatment. Frank, what do you do when this thing crashes through the bottom of the duct in front of you? spreading a pool of acid. Happily, you stepped away so you don't get splashed by that acid. But what do you do when this mass of black, frightening, sharp chitin drops on the deck in front of you in a pool of body fluids, which immediately begin to hiss and work their way through the decking? What do you do?
It's still alive. It's like moving and thrashing and being horrible.
I think it just hit the ground. I want to know your initial reaction.
Oh.
Poke it with a stick.
Yeah. Frank is pretty high strung, so it's either take the gun and blindly start firing at the thing or run away, I think are the options.
I'll shout something at you if it helps.
Sure.
Get back.
I mean,
Ooh, I guess
that's what Thorn's shouting.
Right.
Frank, it's acid.
Yeah, I think yeah, backing away. Yeah. That's sort of like frenzied stumbled backwards where you can't take your eye off of the thing because it's so horrific, so you can't really exactly tell where you're going, just sort of like falling backwards almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as you watch, as you back away, the acid eats through the deck and it falls through. Out of sight. Patsy, you see that from one angle. Thorn, you see it from the other. What do either of you do? Let me start with Thorn, as he's the Marine.
Get down to the deck. I mean, find the nearest way and drop down to the deck where Frank is.
Yeah, no, I mean the grating you came in is literally just behind you. That's not a problem.
Okay.
So you go to Patsy. What about you? There's unpleasant kind of fumes up here from where that acid has been eating through
Patsy,
the ducting.
I used to be a medic,
Mm-hmm.
so I know that I am badly injured and I need to do something right now if I'm going to save my life.
You do.
So I have access to a med kit.
I was going to say, do you want to declare that med kit now?
I believe I have to.
Yeah, fine. So tick it down on your equipment list and also add one to your equipment track. One box is filled by that med kit.
Yep. So that makes me slow.
That makes you slow. I mean, as much because of those burns, perhaps anything else. But yeah, so we see you up there in the duct treating your wounds. Fair?
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah, do I need to roll for this or does it just happen?
No, you just have a med kit, use a med kit. Thorn, Frank, let me come to you first because you watched this thing fall through the deck, and this decking is kind of built, right? This is decking that's built to hold this kind of machinery. Thank God you didn't go any further because that's where the fuel tankage is. What do you do, Frank?
I mean, we have to have the classic looking up through the melted hole as someone like leans their face over and looks down shot, right? Yeah, yep, exactly. Yeah, I think so. Like edge up to it and kind of, yeah.
Yeah. Look over. You can see it lying down there in a pool of acid. But I'd have to, and the fall, because it's fallen more than a deck's height. That's the outer hull.
Yeah, that's not good. Can we move it? That'd be horrific. I don't think we can. Well, I mean, maybe we can, but
I think that's where we'll take our next commercial break as Thorn comes up to Frank and Frank points down and says, that's the outer hull. It is 49 minutes past the hour. I'm going to suggest that we're back in our seats at 5:02. Is 5 minutes long enough?
Yep, that's fine with me.
Okay, see you in about 5. So we come back from the commercial break to find Frank and Thorn still looking into this hole in the decking where a leaking alien warrior is dissolving the outer hull of the ship. Patsy, you've treated yourself, and we see you rather gingerly getting down from a duct over there and heading back towards them, a little bit kind of twingy. And I think it might also be the time to check in and note that Patsy's on 5 stress, Frank Jensen's on 5 stress, and Thorn, you're on 3 stress. So I just want to point that out, that if stress goes up again for Frank or Patsy, you break and become either an NPC I control, or if the fictional positioning is there, you die. So, Frank, you expressed the view that this wasn't good, and you're right. So what, do you have any suggestions?
Start drinking. No. What?
Seek relief from the stress. Is that what I hear?
No, I think. Oh boy, I don't know. Is there a suggestion that can solve this problem? I don't know.
Do you want to roll to see what your laborer, mechanical expertise, machine expertise might suggest about this? But I will remind you that you only have 1 stress
That's
to
1
gain.
stress. Yeah.
So you
I mean,
might want to think about what you do first.
Yeah, that's fair.
You could spend an intel.
I could spend the intel to bring it down.
Stress down a point.
You could.
Yeah.
You could
get off the precipice.
Yeah.
Or you could, or you could spend the intel to just ask me the question, because you can also spend intel to just get an answer to a question.
Ooh.
I don't want to tempt you, of course.
No, you're right. No, I'll reduce the stress with the intel. So
Okay.
back down to 4 stress it is.
So we're back to you asking me a question. So this is roll to investigate using the grey dice. I think your expertise in machines from your past history gives you the orange dice. You can have the stress dice if you'd like it.
Don't do it.
Yeah. Don't do it.
You're going to be right back at 5.
You're playing here with 2 extremes player types. One who never lets the stress die come near them, if at all possible, and the other one who would do it if he was walking along a corridor. So what are you going to do, Frank?
I'll stick with 2 dice. 2 dice. We'll see how that suits me today.
Okay.
There we go.
Oh, who needs stress when you roll a 6? So on a 6, fine. Yeah, this is absolutely a problem. You have correctly identified the issue. I mean, that deck is that hull is thick, but you know, there's a lot of really potent acid down there. It went through that duct like tissue paper, and it went through the deck like cardboard. So, you know, whatever is down there is a real problem. So that's for nothing. And you get 2 questions. And I think the implied question is, well, what could we do about it?
Right.
I think there are 2 options that come immediately to mind. 1, you could move it, or 2, you can try to neutralize the acid by freezing it or chemically neutralizing it. And that leaves you with 1 question. I think you know it won't burn, because I think Patsy can chip that in. Right. Because you know, while it I think it more likely evaporated the acid that was coming towards her, but not all of it. So it doesn't look like it burns.
Yeah. Well, we got to get that out of there. We got to move that for sure. If that burns through the hull, we'll be here longer than, well, doesn't bear thinking about.
We've got nothing.
I'm gonna go to Patsy next as the engineer, because there's still a question in hand here to ask about this. I've given you some options.
Sure.
So Pat, you know, Frank, do you want to ask that second question, or do you hand it off to Patsy?
Yeah, what do you think, Patsy?
Well, frankly, we're fucked at least 9 ways from Sunday, maybe 9.5. We're gonna have to do some serious patching on that hull.
Well, it hasn't got through it yet.
Doesn't matter. I mean, we've got to take off and we've got to actually, we're gonna have to set down at some point. And I don't want to try to land in a vehicle, in a ship that has heat shielding that may be compromised by acid. So, yeah, that is moving some serious metal around to patch that thing, just to make sure that the only thing that melts is that patch as opposed to us.
Hmm.
So I offered some options here for a short-term solution. Yeah, you probably will need to do some longer-term repairs on this, but at the moment you have an issue whereby if if something doesn't happen, it could actually go through that hull and vent to atmosphere, which would not be a good thing, albeit
Yeah.
you're not in a vacuum out there.
So I would try to freeze it.
Okay. So do you
It's
want to ask
acidic,
me?
so I also
Yeah.
want to spread some base
Or
around, just to neutralize the acid. See if that'll work as well.
Okay. Do you want? So is your implied question? Do I have the materials to do one of these things?
Let's go with that.
Okay. You are carrying uh, liquid hydrogen as your reactor fuel source, shall we say. Um, it is held under pressure. Um, and if you could run some of that swiftly out
Mhm.
onto this, then that might cool it down. I've no idea if that science works, but it's what I'm offering you.
it does. It'd be extremely cold at any point, and so it should freeze it solid.
So let's go with that.
Okay, so that's the planned solution. Mason comes through on a walkie-talkie. Thorn, what, how, you said you'd stay in touch. We're up here on B deck. We're trying to watch every possible
No,
vent.
we we've come into violent contact with the Xeno. It is down, but we have a problem. Its acidic body is threatening to eat through to the outer hull. We are trying to counteract that right now.
What,
Come
that
down.
tiny worm thing's got enough acid in it to go through the deck.
Yeah, it's not a tiny worm thing anymore. Come down to C deck if you want to look.
And so I guess then we cut to Patsy with maybe Frank's help, trying to run, using Frank with his protective gloves is trying to run piping down through that hole in CDEC's floor, while Patsy's trying to find a way because it's not designed to vent hydrogen into the ship. It runs back into the reactors and stuff, or it's used to cool the hyperspace engines. So that's what I'm seeing. Frank, do you want to embellish that at all?
No, I guess.
No, that's fine.
Nothing
That's
comes,
fine.
nothing
That's
comes to
fine.
mind. No.
Patsy, anything to add to that, or is that what I'm seeing?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out basically how to run a hose from the tank. Like, even just shunt some of it off and like put a splitter in there to run some of that liquid hydrogen from the reactor over to where we need it to be to freeze the acid.
Okay. Okay.
Alternately, did I happen to think of anything basic on the ship that could be used to neutralize the acid that way, like a powder or
No,
something I could spread around?
I don't think in that kind of the strength of the base you'd need would be kind of enormous, and you'd need large quantities of it. So no, I think you're freezing it is your best option.
Okay.
And then patching the deck over it in the first instance. So and I think Mason then comes down with Hohmann and Tethis. And you know, as Patsy and Frank are working on trying to make this connect the piping and the rest, Mason looks as fuck. But it's like that's a big fucking thing. What that he's speechless.
I cheat him back 6 inches because he's like under a drip. You know, so I shove him back 6 inches just as a little drip of acid material goes right by and hisses into the deck.
And then he notices the pulse rifle. What the hell is that doing on board? Do you know that breaks every reg that in the book? You can't have that on the ship, Thorn.
We can't have violence.
Hohmann catches your eye
Can't have
because she knows about it.
Can't have violent xenomorphs on the ship either, sir.
Yeah, okay. Okay, that's a second order problem. Tethys is just, you know, kneeling down by the edge of the looking down, and is just fascinated by what's down there. Has anyone been down to look at it?
No. That stuff its body fluids will eat right through, well, anything.
Yeah, no, I can see, you know, because there's an expanse about 6 feet across of deck of the deck material, sea deck floor material. It's just, you know, melted away down there, dissolved away down there. And Tethys kind of looks across at the work that Patsy and Frank are doing, and kind of puts two and two together. He says, "Oh yeah, freeze it. That's a good idea." Um, but can I get a couple of samples before we do that, Captain? And Mason looks at Hohmann, and Hohmann says, "Well, samples would be worth something." And before you know it, Tethys is being helped down through this hole. It's about 5 yards maybe down, and Mason's just letting her down on a tether.
I'm going to click the incinerator on and say, Tethys,
looks up.
Just so we're clear, you touch that thing and I burn you with it.
Now hang on, says Mason. Now stand down, Bailey. That you know this. Look, it's dead. Okay, and you're about to freeze it dead. And
Captain, we haven't verified that it's dead. It looks dead, but also that little thing that burst out of my friend's chest looked little. That acid ate through ducting and the deck and is eating through the hull.
Says Tethys, let me burn one of my dangers.
No one could have predicted that.
When you look down, Tethys and the creature have gone, leaving a pool of acid behind.
I look at the captain and say, told you.
What the? Well, okay. Frank, Patsy, stop the hull dissolving. Thorn, find Tethys.
Yes, sir.
I'll look at Thorn and say, you might need this. And I'll offer my incinerator with the motion tracker and flashlight taped to it.
Yeah, I'd rather somebody else carry that.
Understood.
Captain?
Patsy, you know, are you done here? Do you sort of turn the wheel over there or what?
Captain, you just told me to patch the hull.
No, I told you to stop it burning through the hull. We'll patch it later. that's that, saving the hull, first priority. Repairing the hull, second priority.
I'm glad to hear that Tethis was neither one nor two, sir.
Well, that's your priority. I'm setting Thorn to get Tethys back.
Yeah.
I mean, that thing, it looked like you ripped it up, Thorn.
Yeah, obviously it's not dead, sir, or it recovers quickly.
Okay.
So I'm just going to go after it.
Okay.
It's the thing's leaving a trail.
Down there, yeah. So now it's between the hull and the inner skin, the kind of habitation skin. But I just want to be clear whether Patsy or Frank, are you staying or do you want to go with? Because I'm very happy for you to just be able to turn a wheel now and that just freezes the acid in place.
I'll turn the wheel and I'll follow after Thorn.
Frank? Just curious.
Yeah. Yeah, let's go.
Oh, Frank, I think you had a 6 before. So does that give him an intel and a stress roll?
Did he?
Yes. I was going to ask,
did.
but we got caught up in some other stuff.
No, fine. You're quite right. You did. So get an intel. Roll for stress.
Okay.
Yeah, because we got as far as shit. That's scary.
Okay. Wow. Just trading intel for stress again.
Okay, that works for me. Works for me.
Net 0.
That's fine. So I mean, the obvious thing to do is to go down through this hole, avoiding the freezing pool of hydrogen that is evaporating, and solving your immediate problem, and then setting off after this thing, I think.
Yep.
Thorn, I'm putting you in the lead. I'm putting you in the lead at this point because I think that you want a gun at the sharp end. Patsy, I am struck by the fact that you're currently sitting on 5 stress.
Oh yeah, about that. Well, there was a spare moment. I rummaged around in my med kit and grabbed, well, a hypo full of uppers, and I jabbed it into my leg.
Fine.
So I'm using
stress
drugs.
by 1. Fine. Reduce stress by 1 and roll a d6. One that you think likes you.
The stress die likes me.
Wow, 4 plus. Agree with the GM how this leads to danger being marked. I think that probably there's you take this and you get a bit hyper with the hydrogen hose, and there's kind of clanging noises and chugging noises and whatever. So that gives me a danger to play with.
Sure.
Always good.
But I'd reduce another stress. I take it down another stress.
But on a 6, it was really worth it. Reduce stress by another 1.
Uh-huh.
What more do you want? So that's a
I guess that means I really chilled out.
You did. Frank, let me know if and when you want to seek relief from the horror, whether you want to just keep on 4. Always happy for you to do that. And down we go. This time, I think I'm going to use the move. Perhaps I should have used it in the ducting, actually, which is chase them down, Thorn. When they are getting away and the GM agrees there's a reasonable way for you to catch them before they escape, roll a d6. Add another d6 if it's a foot chase and you have survival. Now, you can have that, but the others don't have that level of fitness. So you can include that and end up on your own out front. Or you can not roll that and stay with the pack.
I am going to roll that. Frank can keep up, but I guess Patsy is likely to be left behind.
Okay. So you get to roll the experience dice. I don't think the bonus dice is in play here. You can have the stress dice if you'd like it. So gray, orange, and green, if you want all 3 of them.
Do I want the stress die?
You're on 2 stress. Come on.
3, but that's all right.
Okay.
Yes, I did want the stress die. And I took a stress.
Okay. 1 to 3. Damn it, they're fast.
No,
The
I got
GM
6. I got a 6.
Oh,
I
so
rolled
you
the
did put
stress.
the
I
stress.
rolled the.
You
I
did put
put
the
the
stress
stress
die in.
die
I'm
in, and
sorry.
it got
You
us.
did.
And
You did.
and
And
it
it did the
pegs.
job.
Right.
Stress
That's
goes up
why
by
it
1.
does.
Intel goes up by 1. Do you want to trade those off immediately?
No, I will in a moment. But
so you succeed brilliantly. The GM will agree with you what extra benefit you get. So you catch, you corner this thing. And it's holding Tethys by the back of the neck in front of it.
it's and I think that's where the stress comes from, right? Because it's obviously intelligent.
It's no fool.
It recognizes it's dealing with a projectile weapon and it's using him as a shield, which
It
is.
It is. So you catch him, but agree with you what your extra benefit is. What is the upside of the situation?
The
As you
upside of
and
the
Frank come round the
situation.
corner.
The upside of the situation is that I think the upside of the situation is that it can't make a move without exposing itself.
Fine.
Okay. So in other words, it is, it's pinned, and for right now, this is a standoff, unless as long as I care about Tethys. Because the pulse rifle rounds will go right through him. But it can't make a move without exposing itself to without giving me a clean shot.
I go with that.
Okay, and so I stand and I pull up there. I've got my life rifle leveled, and I am thinking, and I pause.
Frank, you come round the corner with Frank. Patsy is, still a little bit woozy from the drugs and a little bit in pain from the acid splash. But you come round the corner with Thorn. You see the same thing. What do? You've got that industrial bolt gun, haven't you?
Even if you manage to shoot the creature and not hit Tethys, the acid splash will probably kill him.
Oh no, I take it back. You haven't. You could declare the bolt. You mentioned the bolt gun, I think, but you didn't mark it. So now would be a time to tell me if indeed you do have an industrial bolt gun.
I think Thorn handed me off a pistol, right? So I think I might have just like taken that instead, and stayed light.
Yeah, that's a relief because that means that the B team did actually have something that might have done some harm at range.
Yeah.
So fine. So you've got the pistol, and I've described the situation. What do you do?
I think it's like that moment, like Thorn, like what is happening, right? Like Thorn. What's the plan?
Okay, so you're thinking as well. Okay, let's see what it does then. So, Frank, let's have you because Thorn's already rolled for the activity of a xenomorph. Let's have you roll a d6 to see what it does, and then Patsy will arrive.
1.
A 1. 1. It's on you. Do you flee for your life or heroically engage it up close and personal and describe how you die, Frank? It throws Tethys at Thorn and leaps at you. Flee for your life or engage it up close and personal and describe how you die?
Oh man.
That is what's coming towards you broadly.
Thinking about it too much means up close and personal and die.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
No. Thinking about it meant that it got to act.
No, that just seems silly. It's like, yeah, if you consider your options too long, made its decision.
Yeah, exactly. Or it's like when you flip a coin and then the reaction to the coin flip, not the actual outcome of the coin flip, is what tells you what you wanted, right? Yeah. Um, yeah, so I see it. Yeah, it does like it like pounces up onto Frank,
Yeah,
and,
absolutely. It
like
just
pins Frank down by the shoulders on the ground.
well,
And
this is my question. You have an option to flee for your life.
no, I don't think so. Let's do it. Frank's gonna get
Okay.
wasted.
Okay. So engage up close and personal and describe how you die. Let me come back to that in a moment. Thorn, it threw Tethys at you. And then it leaps on Frank. Patsy comes around the corner. What do you do, Patsy? Because Thorn is kind of got a science officer in his face. You're a person who's there, Patsy. What do you do, if anything?
You know, I look at Frank and say, I'm sorry, and pull the trigger on the incinerator. If provided you're okay with that, Casey.
Fuck yeah.
Okay, so that's what I was asking in side chat. If you're just like grappling it and holding it so I can get a better shot at it with the incinerator.
Well, then, what I want to do then, Casey, is to give Frank an opportunity to narrate his last moments. So this thing is on him. It pins him to the ground. The big jaws open. Tell me what happens. You know what Patsy's going to do. I just need you to integrate that into what we see.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Frank is a big dude. So no, this thing still has him. Yeah, so when that first mouth opens up and like the second one starts to crawl out, yeah. I see Frank like get one hand free and like grab like stuff his hand into the mouth of this thing and like grab that second head. Um and yeah, right. And then at the moment where like Patsy says, I'm sorry, he just kind of nods at, you know what I mean? There's like just that look of recognition, like, yep, go ahead. Sure. Yeah, this sucks, but what else? Right? Like, and then flames, right? Like,
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
yeah.
The only bit, and I think what we will probably see is, then the alien is kind of as it rolls away, burning, but so is Frank. But then out of the flames comes Frank's hand with that inner mouth in his
Yeah.
fist.
Yeah.
And I'm inclined to call it there. I don't know what we do with the next 20 minutes that is not any better than that.
That's fair with me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll epilogue. Don't be wrong.
I have one little coda scene to
Okay.
that, which is so Tethys has to say something, right? In the aftermath of this.
Yeah.
So I don't know what he says. You know,
Oh, yeah, right. Okay. No, I thought you were going to tell me what he said.
it's like he makes some scientist comment.
He does.
Does he
I'm
say?
going to burn a danger to then enable me for him to say, this has been a really very odd experience. And then he looks down where the tail of the alien has impaled him. And out is leaking a milky white substance. Oh dear. That was supposed to be a secret. He's a synth.
He's a synth.
What do you
And
do?
well, he's a synth, so what I was going to do, which is to backhand him, wouldn't hurt him. And I say to him, Frank Jensen was a good man. I point the pulse rifle at his head and I say, "Get out of my sight."
And holding his assorted tubing in, he begins to move away. Patsy, you just flamed the alien and Frank. What do we see of you?
Bucket, I'm flaming Tethis.
You've been wanting to do that for ages. He's limping past you. You let him go, turn, and
Yeah, I just want to
go.
make sure that I want to make sure Thorn is out of the line of fire.
Oh yeah.
Oh
No,
yeah,
not a problem. Not a problem.
instinctively.
And then
And then I look at Thorn and say, "Oops."
Flamers are
Like
tricky
you,
weapons. You should be careful, Billy.
well, like you said earlier, accidents happen.
and that I think is our cut to epilogues.
Yes.
Frank, Casey, frame me an epilogue about Frank. Is this, words over him as he's put in the freezer next to poor old Yasmin, or is it, a scene back on Earth when somebody finds out that he's not coming home? Whatever you like.
I see the computer screen readout typing across or whatever, and um, like Frank Jensen deceased, blah blah blah, like all those rows, and then at the very bottom it says like debts paid, and like whatever shares I might have accrued got paid out to my family, and like there's a little bit of a happy ending there for Frank maybe.
I think that's nice. I was hoping he wasn't going to his family. You weren't going to have his family, being taken out of their lodgings because the company
Yeah.
wouldn't. We don't pay on deceased. What about Thorn? Let me go to Thorn next. Oh no, let me ask you, Patsy and Thorn, is your epilogue in the immediate aftermath of this, or is it further away in time? Thorn, immediate aftermath, further away.
I'm thinking.
Well, while you're having give me some thought to that. Bucket, what are you thinking about Patsy's epilogue? Immediate aftermath or further away in time?
Um, I think generally speaking, if Thorn continues going out on boats, Patsy would follow Thorn, having gone through this experience. But I think in the immediate epilogue, as Mason and Hohmann are probably freaking out and trying to figure out what to do, you see Patsy kind of sneaking off the ship and finding the facility's reactor and setting it to overload and likely explode.
Okay.
I mean, she's not carrying a nuke around, but there's got to be a reactor around
There's
here powering this
plenty
facility
about here
somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's more immediate aftermath that works. So Thorn in that same kind of time frame or further away?
Well, I'll take the other end of that, which is that I think, Thorn as is with Patsy when they're getting paid off. And who offers Thorn, another job? Which of the people here, the captain or the WY?
I think Hohmann catches you on the way out of the office and says, Mr. Thorn, Miss Thorn, why just walk with you a moment. Hi, Patsy. Bye. And walks away. Now that doesn't mean he won't come together at some later date, but I think that they're interested in Thorn at this point. And that I think is go on.
And Thorn's reaction is No, thanks. I'm good.
Good for you.
And
Good for you.
walks off with Patsy and says, let's see if we can find us a gig where they don't lie to us
Okay.
right off the bat.
Let's that is where we roll credits, and let's do a quick I suppose roses and thorns more than stars and wishes. So anything that you wish had happened but didn't, or that didn't go exactly as smoothly as you'd like, that's thorns. And roses are just nice things that you want to say about one another. So let me go in the order I've got you on the character keeper. Let's start with Brandon. Any roses, any thorns?
Oh yes, well, roses. First off, for the scenario and all of the wonderful alien bits that happened, for having a creature that was incredibly nasty but not, not superhuman. Just the right amount of sort of terror. The grabbing Tethis there at the end was perfect. As the coda to, of course it's not dead. And then also, roses for a rose for Casey, for Frank playing the frightened but game all the time, and to Puckett for just how and not inappropriately murderous Patsy was. It's like confronted with an otherworldly horror, took the perfectly reasonable thing of keep shooting it until it's dead and nothing else really matters. And
yeah, what a shame that Tethys got caught in the backdraft from when she flamed that alien.
Flamers are they're not pinpoint weapons. It was his fault for being too close.
Great, thank you. Any thorns?
No.
Okay.
I thought the roles the roles for the alien behavior all worked out in interesting directions. I suppose they could have been less, but they weren't. They turned out really well. That the people trembling on the edge of stressing out, and the fact that we had 3 people killed, is it's just
It's
all
a tribute to the system.
it was ideally, you want some people to die, but not everyone.
Yeah.
And you want it to be there to be a threat to more people dying. So that was all good. I really liked it.
Casey, any roses, any thorns?
Yeah. It was just a blast for sure. Man, the thing that happens where like you have a bunch of things you want to say, and then as soon as someone goes, "So tell me what you think," and then your brain goes, "I don't know." But I thought about it after the session last week too. So like big ups to Brandon and Puckett, and like Puckett, we've talked about this before. Like I'm just always I'm like maybe I shouldn't be, but I'm always just astounded by like the level of play, and I often catch myself out just like watching what or like listening to like what everyone else is doing, and not necessarily like losing focus or stop paying attention, but like kind of forgetting what I'm doing a little bit just by being like, oh, this is great, this is awesome, it's just like watching a movie, or what I mean, like I'm just listening along, this is great. And so that's always awesome. The game is like great, Alan. Like I've been thinking about it ever since last week. Like again, after we played last week, I went straight into watching Alien and watched Aliens the next night, and like I really like the system. Like I texted 2 of my friends after we got done last week too, and was like, bro, I just played this game. It's awesome. Like I really like the like GM resources you have. Like again, I don't know exactly how it all works behind the scenes, but when you're like spending danger or whatever, that's really cool. I really like how it all kind of like yeah, the stress dice, all that stuff. Like that was really cool. And I also want to give you a star for saying cathedral-like spaces. I never would have described the bottom of a spaceship like that, but it was just such a like again, I just watched Alien, and it's like such a perfect description of that I was just yeah, I wrote that down because I like that so much. That was good. Yeah, no,
Appreciate
I
that.
had a
Thank
great
you.
time. It was awesome.
Good,
Yeah.
good. It encourages me to think that maybe there is a second edition of Alien Dark with some of these additions in it. And finally, Puckett, any stars, any roses, any thorns?
Um, so the system works it works as well exactly as it works exactly as well as I expected it to. I mean, it's not like you've been polishing the system for 3 years, 4 years. I seem to recall it predating the pandemic. So, you know, system sings, loved it. Um, the thorn that I have is that there were survivors. Alan, what are you doing? I was fully expecting to like go through at least another character or two here.
I mean, it's an interesting question. I do find myself wondering. I've always thought of this as a one-shot game. This was
Mhm.
an effort to stretch it to a two-shot. I do wonder whether a more involved setting might have legs for a full series. I don't know, but you know, there's only so much time.
Yeah, I think what it boils down to there is what kind of game you want to run. Does one person get infected by a face hugger and then the ship takes off and it all occurs on the ship? I mean, that feels like a one shot. Something like this, feels more like a two shot. If you wanted to go for something more complicated, like a full-on hive, or, investigating, say, a progenitor planet, I mean, that could easily provide the groundwork for a full-on series. Um, but, like I said, the only real thorn I have is that there were survivors. We weren't wiring the ship to explode to make sure that nobody got off, and we weren't wiring the facilities reactor to overload and just, melt a hole through the planet type stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I think we just got unlucky that poor old Yasmin drew a face hugger early on.
Yeah, maybe.
Still love it.
But as far as stars as roses go, God, this was so much fun. I mean, Casey, thank you for that last bit of Frank, where Frank is just like, holding it, knowing what's coming, and holding it anyway. That's why I was checking with you to make sure that you were okay with it, because that was just, I mean, that's how a hero goes out. Like,
Yeah,
nah, fuck it, cook this thing. You're gonna cook me with it, so be it. So
yeah.
that was an awesome end for Frank.
Yeah, that
Um,
was great.
I wish poor Yasmin had gotten something that awesome, and instead she just got to be a plot point. But that's okay. It happens. Um, Brandon, you played Thorn. I think my favorite thing that Thorn did was generally accusing people of withholding information in front of the full crew. Um, that was that was something that Patsy was completely on board with, very supportive of, because, her friend had just died. And, so I think that was I mean, everything else was great. Like all the little details you put in, I loved it all, but it just that scene of confrontation where, we used to say you put the moose on the table and said, somebody here's not telling us everything. We didn't get a full briefing. There are people here withholding information from us. And by the way, fuck you for doing that, because now we're all in peril. Now we're all in like deadly danger. So that was, I loved that because that really set the stakes, um, and, you know, planted seeds of mistrust. So like the only people we really could trust were, well, us, not the science officer, not the corpo, just so yeah, it really set the stakes. I loved that bit. Alan, um, gotta be blunt. I think you could have gone a little bit harder on some of the GM moves, um, or on some of the facilitator responses. Like, I'm not sure necessarily that you should have given Patsy an option in the duct. I mean, that was a bad scene. So, Patsy patching herself up. uh, well, that might have been a spot where maybe you should have killed Patsy. So, but again, this is an alien game. you know, going into it, this is what you're signing up for. So yeah, but that's the only, I don't even know if that's a thorn. I mean,
I
I
mean,
like the way that you handle things, but
it's a deliberate feature of the game that nobody
yeah,
dies in this game unless they choose to. And so that's why it's, you know, it's mortal. Describe how you die, or choose something else. Um, but yeah, so yeah, I mean that's in the end, I like to put those decisions in the hand of the players.
yeah,
It
fair.
starts from me. Casey, that last scene, and I think it exemplified a really good table culture where, you know, Puckett and you were able to just have that moment of clarification about, you know, I am about to turn a flamer on you. Is that okay? And then the way you kind of described that last scene was just brilliant. I loved that. That was fantastic. Um, and you know, the quiet man in the end came through as the hero. Um, I enjoyed Patsy's, well, devil may care makes it sound less serious actually, but that way of just, of course I use the stress die. What the hell? And that's a Puckett characteristic I am familiar with. Um, and Brandon, for me, it was the suppressed rage right at the start where you're all putting Yasmin into the freezer, so to speak. That description of just, you know, that someone somehow needs to pay for this. That was really tight. That was really good, and I thought it told us a lot about someone who is, and I quote, hang on, I've lost it. Young, scarred, tough, and sardonic. You know, this is someone who's been through the ringer, but you know, there are things that are beyond the pale. I thought it was really good. So no, I was great, and thank you again, Puckett, for volunteering to go in the ducts. You know, it was going to happen, but somebody had to do it. It's tough work. Somebody has to do it. So thanks for that. So those were great. And at that point, I think I'll stop the recording.